My guest this evening is an extremely hardworking musician. As an acoustic classic rock artist, he has brought joy to thousands and thousands of people around the world. Cover the music, cover the world is his motto. Very appropriate for these trying times. It is my great pleasure to welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Mr. Mike Masse. Mike.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I mean, it's so awesome when I get a chance to actually talk to the artists that I'm a fan of, that I have been listening to and watching. And so it's like, yes, I'm journalist, but I'm also fanboy too. So
Right on.
it all works out. So things are going pretty well down there in Denver, all things considered.
Yeah, we're safe and we're sitting tight. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds pretty good, for when you can say that kind of thing, because some people can't. So
yeah.
I wanted to kind of just jump right into things. We'll kind of start with things that are current, work to maybe some of your background in the past, and then kind of come back up to current.
Sure.
And you were mentioning today during one of your many Mike Masse show live streams that this Friday is the 10th anniversary of your version of Africa that went up on YouTube, that went viral and everything kind of changed your life. What kind of thoughts come to mind when you think about that? It's been 10 years.
Hold on one sec. Here's the shirt. I grabbed it up. I got it out so I would remember to wear it on Friday. But this is the shirt I was wearing in that video, and it's
wow!
It's a Rush shirt that I got like 2 or 3 days before my show. Rush had just come to town, so I just wore this, and it's like an XXL, and I've lost a lot of weight since then, but it's like really big on me now. But it was 10 years ago on Friday, and it was in August, and we were on the patio at the Pie Pizzeria in South Jordan, Utah. The most of my YouTube channel comes from the Pie Pizzeria underground location, and kind of closer to the University of Utah, like east of downtown Salt Lake City. So there's a couple different locations that I played at. So the it's kind of funny that the video I'm most known for is kind of a rarity because it was at the other location. But anyway, I was outside on the patio on a Friday afternoon. We were just kind of playing for a few tables of people, and I set up my video camera, and I had my laptop there to record the audio and just captured the show. And we just decided to do Africa that night, and just to kind of see what would happen, because I'd actually put it on the request list. It was a new addition to the request list that I passed out at the tables. And so one of my friends actually was there, and with his wife, and they requested Africa, and I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And it was only like the second time Jeff and I had done it, and afterwards, we just kind of laughed, because like, well, we made it through. We just like weren't really sure what was going to happen, and then I went back and looked at the video. I'm like, this is pretty good. And I sent it to Jeff. I'm like, do you think I should post this? He's like, I don't know, man. Like, he thought maybe we could do it better, just like, all right, well, I'm just going to post it. And then it just kind of took off and had a life of its own, and was the reason that I'm looking at you on the video. I should look at the camera. But it kind of took off and had a life of its own. And it's been the way a lot of people find me for the first time. But it's not, it's by no means the only thing I've done. I have over probably like 200 songs or something. I don't even know how many videos I posted now, and I've done over 400 different songs on my live stream. So, but Africa has been an important part of my catalog for sure.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking to myself about, I'm not sure exactly when I first saw that video or how I saw it, if it was part of the viral movement or what it was, but I still probably like, millions of other people, when I first watched this, like, oh, this is kind of good. And then when you hit to the chorus and with you and Jeff harmonizing, it's like, holy crap. I mean, that's why I turned up my volume. I wanted to hear it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a, I mean, it's still your version of it, but it's so close to the original that it's got this nice balance. And I think that's what was so impressive about it. Like you mentioned, I mean, it's something that, it really changed the course of your life and opportunities and everything else. And I looked at it today, and I believe it's at 14 million views.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of helped put me on this trajectory, because now I'm a full-time musician. I had been for about 6 years, and before that, I was an attorney in Salt Lake City. I moved to Denver about 6 years ago and quit the day job, and I was a public defender for 13 years. And that was a pretty intense gig, but this is kind of the music thing was what Jeff and I were doing on the side, just to kind of keep ourselves sane, because my bass player, Jeff, the duo partner that's in, a lot of my early videos with me, he's also an attorney. He's a prosecutor, actually. So, we would talk shop, and eat free pizza before we, do our shows. And and we know all the same people. And he became eventually, he was like, now he's kind of like one of the supervisors there, and so he's been there for a while. And so I would complain about, you know, some of the prosecutors that I was having to deal with, because he was, you know, one of their bosses basically. I'm just like, man, you know, but it was good. It was good times. And we, you know, we talk about, it's funny because we would just talk about, we'd agree on what songs we wanted to do at the next gig, like new songs we want to do together. And we would rarely actually rehearse them together. We would just be like both working from the same source material, and we'd be like, okay, we're both going to play our parts and trust the other person to do their part and just see what happens. And so a lot of our first, you know, performances are also rehearsals, you know, but we were playing these gigs on Monday nights, so there weren't always a lot of people there. So we kind of felt like we were free to experiment. And then after we started filming the gigs, we were like, we're kind of playing for YouTube at this point, you know, so like independent of how many people actually came to the restaurant that night, you know.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that. I played in a couple of duos myself, played guitar and sang, and then it was usually like, why don't you work on these 3 songs? I'll work on those same songs, you know, separately. We'll come together at the show, and we'll just throw it on the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And you just hope that there's nothing too crazy you have to sort out, you know. Jeff would usually know that if there were harmonies involved, that I would take the high part, you know, stuff like that. But so yeah, so we just kind of had our little system that we kind of worked with. It was good.
Okay, yeah, no, and I think the other thing that maybe a lot of people out there that know you from the Africa videos, that you were putting a lot of content up for maybe a couple of years prior to that. So you're
Yeah.
constantly trying to get more content. Can you kind of speak to how you started your channel?
Yeah, well, I had all these arrangements I'd kind of put together, and you know, I auditioned at my first restaurant in 1992 when I was in college. So give you some idea of how old I am. But that was my first restaurant gig, and I started working on these acoustic arrangements like on my own, just like. And a lot of them were, you know, there's some songs where I just play the guitar part, right? Like there's an acoustic guitar part and I play it, you know, and like there's not a lot of arranging involved. I'm just trying to come as close to the original as I can, you know. But other songs, you know, there's definitely arranging involved, whether it be like I'm trying to condense this whole band mix into an acoustic guitar part, or I'm like, I want to take this piano part and put it on an acoustic guitar, or this keyboard part and put it on acoustic, you know, like I had arrangements, like some of my early arrangements examples would be like Tainted Love by Soft Cell, you know, like the synth arrangement, you know, I put it on acoustic guitar, and people, you know, that's on YouTube now, and people really dig that as like a resource. It's like, oh, that's a cool idea. That's a cool way to play it, you know. And not only would I be translating it to acoustic guitar, I try to find like the easiest way to play on acoustic guitar, because I consider myself to be sort of an average guitar player. I'm not like, you know, I'm definitely not a lead player, and I'm a decent rhythm player. I'm not gonna lie, you know, I can hold my own, and one of my strengths now, if I'm allowed to say that, is that I can play and sing, you know, at the same time, because I have to, because that's always been what I've done. It's just I've you know, my guitar has just always been to accompany my singing, and the singing has always been the focus for me. But you know, guitar was like a necessary evil because no one else is going to do it. I didn't want to pay someone to do it, you know. So I learned all these songs by myself, and you know, actually my first instrument was piano. So I grew up, you know, playing piano as a kid. And I didn't take up guitar until I was in like high school, and so this was really all like me borrowing the guitars from my band's acoustic guitar, and like just teaching myself how to finger pick and do other things. You know, I had some Beatles songbooks I was working on. So, but I grew this repertoire, and I started playing restaurants in 92. And then in 1993, in January of 93, I auditioned. You know, I kind of tried out, I guess, at the Pie in the Pie Pizzeria in Salt Lake City. And that was a monthly gig I had for like 25 years or something. It started off
Wow.
Monday. Yeah, it started off Monday and Tuesday, 2 nights back to back, once a month. And I had to drive like from Provo because I was going to BYU. So I was like driving like almost an hour to get there each way, 2 nights in a row. So like I just kind of eventually I just, you know, went down to Monday nights instead of 2 nights in a row. And yeah, I had that gig for a long time. And it was in 2008 that I started filming it and then posting the highlights on my YouTube channel. And that became like the kind of basis of my YouTube channel. And then I would do some studio stuff here and there. And then when I moved to Colorado, I still did some live stuff, but I did mostly studio stuff here. So my channel's kind of evolved. But the early stuff is me and Jeff Hall, just kind of like, and us getting through as much of our repertoire as we can in a way that like I felt captured it, you know, did it justice. You know, it's not all perfect, but it's just like this was closest, you know, this is kind of how we did it, you know. And it's kind of funny to me to think that like that's the only version or the only like performance that many people ever hear of me doing these songs. Like when I do them on my live streams, I'm like, and they've kind of evolved, and you know, or just you know, or they haven't, you know, and it's just kind of fun to give it another go. But I'm sure it sounds interesting to people to hear another take of me doing it, because they've only heard me do it that one time, most people, you know. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting perspective, because I didn't even think about the fact that if I go back and watch you doing, say, a U2 cover from the early days, that's the only version I know. And I think even like for myself, when we were playing, we would always be playing, like there was a Lita Ford song we used to play in like every set, and there's a Police song every set. So if people came, they heard very different versions, and maybe we got better at it. But if they only saw it once, that's all they know. And if I had stuck that on YouTube, that's all anyone would know would be the one version.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And so whenever we happened to capture it, that's what state it was in at the time, and a lot of it for me, it kind of became, sort of canon for me. Like I knew that people were sort of expecting me to play it a certain way, and it's never been my inclination to, largely modify, my arrangements over time anyway. I kind of stick to the same thing. So yeah, the only thing that's changed is my voice has probably dropped a little bit, like in its timbre. I listen to some of those early videos. I'm like, whoa, I sound like a little kid, it's just like, it's pretty funny. But I still have a range on a good day. I'm not saying I can't hit, the high notes. I still do pretty well on a good day, but I think I can hit some of the low stuff now better than I could before, which is kind of fun for me too, because I've always had a higher voice, so it's kind of fun to dig into some of those lower moments.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say, I don't think you give yourself enough credit. You definitely are hitting some of those high notes in those live streams I was watching. And
oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like when you have to start off singing like Your Love from the Outfield. And it's way up there. And both of us being musicians, we know that your voice needs to be in a certain place where you think, I'm going to try this or I'm not going to try it.
Yeah. And I take too many risks on my streams. I've played over 400 different songs, and I didn't know all of them as well as I knew some of them, like some of them better than others. And also like, some of them I did on days where I didn't have the voice for it. And I would just go for it anyway. I'm just like, my philosophy is I'm singing in my basement in my house, and so I'm giving myself permission to make mistakes because I'm in my house. It's just like, I'm playing for the world. I'm giving you what I've got today, and let's see what happens together. That's kind of the way I approach it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to approach it. You're having fun with it. Let's take a few chances, and it's like, why not?
Yeah, and I'll usually say before I start a song, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here because I don't know if I know this very well or whatever. Like, or I haven't done this song in a long time. I make plenty of excuses for myself, and I've been told, by performance teachers that you're not supposed to do that, but I do it all the time. And I think it's just, maybe it's humanizing because it's just like it lets people know that I'm more comfortable with some songs than others, and you kind of see me work through it and see what happens. And yeah, it's like I take you on a little adventure with me, and like sometimes I'll rate my performances afterwards too. I'm just like, that was generally the idea, like I'll know like if I miss something or whatever. But it's sometimes it's lyrical flubs, it's hard to get all those words. The pronouns, I'll mix up pronouns all the time, the he and the she or whatever. It's like, and it's weird the tricks your memory plays on you. You're like, a whole phrase and you're like, wait, this one word just like disappears from your memory. Like, wait, what is this one word? It's just like, you're just cruising along and suddenly you're like, you have a hole in your memory. It's just like, it just catches you at odd times. But when you're trying to sing 400 songs, that's just what happens, So.
Yeah, no. And I was thinking, even like when I was watching part of your stream today, that I can't remember what song you were singing, but you knew that you didn't hit what you wanted to hit. So you kind of smile to yourself, like, oh, but then you keep on going. Every musician's done that, where like if you flub a chord or something, you're like, oh, okay, but we're just going to keep going.
Yeah. My voice wasn't 100% the last couple of days, and I was dealing with some hoarseness. I'm like, I'm going to try this song and I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, just like, so I can hear it too. Don't worry. I can hear it too.
I was looking through things, and one of the things that I saw that you had said, and I put it as a quote that I really, really liked, was, I try to stay out of the way of a good song in terms of how you arrange it, how you perform it, how you approach it. And I thought that was perfect. I actually wrote it down that way.
Yeah, that's my philosophy, is that when I'm trying to do songs that are, classic for a reason. And so that I don't feel like I have a lot to add to them. Like, I don't have that kind of ego to think, how can I improve upon the Beatles? It's just like, I just try to do the Beatles, and I try to do it the way I hear it. And I think of myself as like, I don't know, just some like acoustic jukebox for people that like dig this kind of classic rock music. And I just try to like, I don't want to surprise people. I don't want to disappoint people. I sometimes I'll surprise them a little bit, like I'll change things up a little bit here and there. But generally speaking, I want people to be like, I want them to feel what they felt or what they loved about that song. I want that to be there, you know, and whatever intangible or tangible element it happens to be, I try to do almost like 99% of what I do in the same key, the original key. So it's got that same vibe going in. I don't try to change a lot of tempos, you know, and like when the drums kick in, my rhythm picks up on the guitar, you know, and I've got a stomp pedal I use for some kick drum, and I've got a guitar synthesizer I use for either 12-string emulation sometimes to make it sound like a 12-string guitar, or like I'll add in some good, you know, synth like strings or a little bit of mellotron. Yeah, so I'm trying to give you some texture that like kind of brings you there as much as one person can do in real time, basically with 2 hands and a foot or whatever, 2 feet. And yeah, and so and like I said, I just try to stay out of the way of a good song. Like if, you know, whatever's there, I'm just want to deliver what was there, and because whatever you loved about it, I want it to still be there, you know.
Yeah, no, I think you've definitely hit the mark, because I think, as I mentioned, I think in one of the emails I sent to you, some of the songs that I really love that you covered. One of the reasons I love them is because it does bring me back to that song when I first heard the
Yeah.
original, and also because sometimes it's something less covered. So, like for example, when I heard
Yeah.
you do "Alone Again" from
Right on.
Dokken,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, he actually kind of sounds like Dawn at times singing that song. And then I love the guitar solos. One time, I think Rock was there with you, so he was
Yep.
actually playing that stuff. And
Mhm.
you did the Metro from Berlin, which I
Mhm.
didn't expect to hear. Synchronicity 2 from the Police.
Mhm.
So it's like I've seen all those bands at some point, or even met some of them. And again, you have that right balance between the original and then just putting a little bit of a spin at times, but sometimes not at all, depending on what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, what can I do with an acoustic guitar is always the first question, you know? And it's just like there are songs that like are hard nuts to crack for me. Like there are songs that I've been like, I really wish I could arrange that acoustically, and it just like every time I hear it, it's just like it bothers me. I'm just like, oh, I can't get that song, you know, because it's like a song I love and I'd love to sing, and it's just like that's just my arrangement is just a vehicle for me to get to sing this song in public, you know, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get to, and so I try to do it in a way where I, you know, include as much as my limited ability can, but like, you know, I wanted to all be there, and yeah, some of the songs that you named are just, it's all stuff I loved, you know, and it's a kind of a variety, but it's all stuff I loved growing up, and so I'm just reaching back into the songbook. Some of it's stuff I even performed when I was younger, you know, either in high school or whatever. I loved Dokken when I was in high school, and I can sing that song at my age, which I won't mention. I can sing it now better than I could then, you know, which is crazy, you know, like when I was young, you know, because I just didn't have the technique, and so my voice has improved, you know, that way, and it's just a muscle that I've strengthened, you know, and it's just it's been fun to re-explore some of those songs and like that I've considered previously unreachable, that I'm like, oh no, I can do that now. So yeah, it's cool.
No, that's nice. And like you were kind of mentioning, if we kind of go back a little bit, that you started off with piano, and then I believe it was electric guitar, and then acoustic guitar, and somewhere
Yeah,
in there you started
basically, yeah.
working with, yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
started working with voice. So were you taking lessons at some point with any of those instruments, or learning on your own, or
right. I
both?
took some piano lessons as a kid, and you know, and had made, you know, maybe I don't know how many years I took. Maybe it's 3 or 4 or 5. I was a little kid, so but it was enough to give me a foundation. And then I dropped off, and then I picked up the electric guitar at like around 12, and learned some bar chords and power chords, and was playing some Rush, and you know, playing Crazy Train, all the stuff you do when you're learning electric guitar. You know, playing, you know, Smoke on the Water, you know, all those good songs. But then yeah, it wasn't until high school that I really picked up the acoustics guitar to the way where I was like able to play songs in their entirety in a way where I could accompany myself. I had a lot of piano songs where I could do that. You know, I learned a lot of Beatles songs that way where I could just play the whole thing through, and just even if it, you know, just and kind of compensate for the lack of a band, kind of doing the same thing, arranging the whole song on piano, you know, the best way I could. And yeah, so it's just kind of grew from that, and the guitar just was an extension of that. I never thought I would be like a guitar player. I mean, now I'm teaching like guitar lessons online, you know, like I never thought I would do that. It's just so funny. But you know, I have like this Play It Like Mike series I'm doing, where I'm just doing these online streams, and I'm giving them away free to any US veterans, because there's this program called guitarsforvets.org that they just give out guitar lessons for people who want to volunteer and teach vets, and they give out free guitars for vets who stick with the program for 10 lessons. And so I handed off the link to all of these lessons to Guitars for Vets, so they can give them to any vet for free. And it's like, so I'm doing lesson 13 tomorrow. And it's just like, it's literally showing you how I play the songs, because excuse me, I'm choosing songs for these lessons that where my arrangement is not just what the guitar player played. I like it's bringing something different to the table, where it's like, you know, like the Africa, for example, where like I arranged the whole song for guitar, and it's like, you know, way different than what you heard, you know, on the original. So like, yeah, I'm trying to start with those kind of arrangements where like I'm actually, you know, it's something unique. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, that's awesome that you're a part of that. And that's something I'll definitely have to look into, the organization that's doing that.
Yeah.
Especially since we just had a staff sergeant on last night as my guest.
Yeah, guitarsforvets.org. They're great. They're awesome. They're nationwide. They have like guitar lessons set up in VAs like all across the country, and they're always looking to start new chapters and they're always looking for volunteer teachers, looking for people to donate instruments. They will take an instrument that you can't even play, and they will make a piece of art out of it, and they will sell it to support the program. Or if you have a super nice guitar that's like kind of way maybe too good to give to one vet, they'll take it and they'll sell it online, and they'll take that money and they'll use that to buy several guitars, you know, that are kind of good beginner guitar or whatever, you know. So yeah, they've got it all covered. It's great program.
Awesome. And you know, just off the top of my head, I'm just curious, what was the first concert you went to?
The first concert that I remember, I saw Neil Diamond with my mom and grandma when I was 3, but I don't really count it because I don't remember it. But when I was 12, I saw Eric Clapton with my mom.
Oh.
Yeah, and then it was I don't know if you remember like that he had that live album that came out and had the really long version of Cocaine that they actually played the whole thing on the radio because it was so cool. It's like 9 minutes or something. Yeah, it was like right on that tour that I saw him, like the tour after that album came out. So it was a really cool time to see Eric Clapton is 82. And then I saw like that really within a year or two, I saw like Styx and Rush and The Who. I was like going for it from that point on, like with the concerts. Yeah. Yeah. And then I moved to Colorado, and then I found some friends that we attended a bunch of shows together too. So I've seen a lot of good bands.
That's awesome. I'm thinking about some of the hardcore Alice fans that are in the chat. That one's a huge Who fan, one's, you know, major into Pink Floyd.
Nice.
And
I cover all those bands on my channel. Yeah. All those bands.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to mention to those guys that are watching. Anybody else out there? It's like, if you love, you know, those type of classic rock bands, if you also like things from the '80s, Mike covers all of it. And so, I mean, if you want to request a song and you make a donation as a tip, you've got this whole. I mean, that list scrolls forever of songs that you know that you can request.
Did you look at the PDF file? Is that what you looked at?
Yep.
Yeah. There's two of them. There's songs.pdf and artist.pdf. One's the artist is sorted by artist, but yeah, there's over 400 different songs, like I said. And it's a really cool resource because it's just linked on my website, but it's just mikemasse.com/songs.pdf. But yeah, it's great because it's not just a list of songs, it's actually links to every performance from every episode. So you can not just like, if you see a song you want to hear, oh, what does that sound like? You can literally click on it right there. And it doesn't just take you to that live stream, it takes you to that moment in the live stream where that song starts. So it's a really handy tool.
Yeah, and I found that out the hard way because I was going through your live stream, just kind of watching all of them, and then I found that list. I was like, "Oh, and it's got links here. So what does this do?" And I clicked on one. Exactly what you said. It brought me right to where that song starts, to that second. And I was like, "Wow, this is awesome!" So I was scrolling through all these things again, and saying, "Maybe there's something I missed," because you've done so many live streams.
Yeah. Well, I just did episode 76 today, and each one is like, at least like the ones I do during the week are Mondays and Wednesdays are like at least an hour and a half long. And the ones I do on Friday and Saturday nights are at least 2 hours long, usually closer to 2.5 hours long. But yeah, so there's a lot of content there, but some people enjoy like just kind of replaying a whole show, just kind of enjoying the vibe of that. But you know, you are sitting through me kind of looking at comments and looking at requests and stuff. If you want to just get straight to the music, you can do that too. Sometimes you'll miss kind of what I'm saying about the song though, because sometimes I'll talk about it before or after, you know, so you might want to back up a little bit if you want to hear what I'm saying, but not always. But yeah, anyway, it's like, but in the, what I was gonna say is on YouTube as well, in each show, in the video description, it gives the set list and it gives a link to each moment, like just the same way as that PDF does. The PDF is just a compilation of all of those individual links. So yeah, if you look at any of my shows and you look at the video description, it'll show you the set list and you can literally click on it and start that song right there. It's really cool. It's awesome. And it's a search tool too. I didn't realize that, but by putting the song and the time in the video description, if you search for my name and a song that I've only done in a live stream, that live stream will come up. You may not, like, I don't know if it'll come up at that moment, like if it'll like bring you to that moment. I don't know if it's that smart, but it will come up because the name of that song is in the video description. It's smart enough to know that like, oh, this is the only connection of Mike Masse and that song. And so like, even if I didn't do a separate video for it, if it's just in a live stream, you can still find it. It's kind of cool.
Wow, I had no idea. No, that's really handy and good to know for everybody out there. And
I know I'm going deep dive into the YouTube logistics, but yeah, that's kind of, yeah.
well, since you mentioned YouTube really quickly, I was just curious. Do they have like a list, or did you kind of have to find out through trial and error of like what you can cover and what you can't? How did that work?
Well, let me put it this way, it's devolved over time because they have a website and it's like youtube.com / I think it's like music_policies / or something like that. It's like music policies. If you search for that, you can find it. Excuse me. And it is a sorry, like I said, getting over this hoarseness. It is a database that you can search and you can put in a song and it'll tell you. Sometimes it will give you like a hit, like that's what you're looking for. And when it does, it'll tell you if that song is something that you can cover, and if you cover it, if you can monetize it, or if it'll get blocked, in the world, or what countries it'll get blocked in. So it's kind of a nice resource because it gives you kind of a heads up. But it also says at the top of that page, they're like, hey, nobody really uses this because they never, like, nobody knows about it, right? Nobody has any idea it's there, and they never really fully developed it. It's kind of an imperfect system. But anyway, at the top of the page says this page is going away. And so, like, in the future, they suggest that what you do is if you want to know if you can record a song or not, post it as a private or unlisted video and see what happens. It blew my mind when that was the recommendation. Basically, I mean, imagine what they're saying. It's like, whatever you're going to do all this work and then just see if you can post it. Good luck. They don't give you any way to know ahead of time until you've actually created the work. So you're spending all this time on it, and then until you actually post it, that's when you know if you can post it, because you're going to see what happens. It's just like, come on, YouTube. If they're doing that, they better not be penalizing anybody for just uploading something, because they have no way of knowing. Now their only recourse is to just trial and error. So they better not be penalizing people. That's all I can say about that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I found out through a previous guest that we had like a 9-second clip of one of their performances that the band approved, but then the label that owned it in Germany or something, it got blocked. So I had to cut it out of their interview later.
Yeah, and there's ways to probably get around that, but it's gonna take time, and it's just dumb. It's, you could probably reach out to somebody, they could, like, unblock it or whatever, make an exception for you. I mean, because that happens to me too as a YouTube, like, content creator. I get people who just steal my music, they just put it on their channel, and sometimes they're like actually adding something to it, and I think that's kind of cute and fun, like they're playing drums along with it or whatever, and generally that's fine as long as they do it where the quality of what I did is still represented, like it still sounds good and looks good, so like I don't look worse, and I try to preserve what I'm doing, but I don't spend a lot of time looking at this stuff. But sometimes people will just copy my stuff and they wanted to show it to somebody, or sometimes they'll just be stealing my stuff or whatever. But anyway, all of these things show up in a big page on my YouTube channel where I can just like either blanket, have some kind of treatment of, or do it individually. So they have the same thing. I would think that they can go through individually and make an exception for you. They should be able to.
That's good to know.
Anyway.
And so we're actually at the end of our 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, we're there. Yeah, no worries, man. So we
Mike,
got hard out, so we're there.
Yeah, but it was awesome talking with you. What would you like the fans out there to know? You kind of mentioned some of the things of how they can connect with you, but what would you like to say again?
Yeah, just MikeMasse.com and /songs, and I think maybe a backslash or a slash after the song is like my song list. But anyway, yeah, just and MikeMasse.com, or if you just search for Mike Masse, Masse, you'll find me. And also, just if you Google Acoustic Africa cover, you'll find me.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much. Stay safe down there.
Good to talk to you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time, and I'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks to Alice for having me on. I appreciate it.